Far across the galaxy, beyond the trade routes and shining empires, there was a dying world, Valerian, home of the Valari. Once it had been beautiful. Vast oceans shimmered under two suns, and tall glass cities reached for the sky. But that was before the war. Now everything was gone. The skies were black with ash. The cities lay in ruins. The ground cracked and dry. The Valari walked through empty streets, searching for food that no longer existed. Their leaders had fallen. Their armies were gone, and worst of all, no one came to help. Across the galaxy, other races had heard their desperate calls but ignored them. The Valari had lost too many battles, too much power. To most, they were already dead. The last survivors gathered in a broken chamber deep beneath the planet's surface. The air was heavy and hot. Generators hummed weakly. Around a cracked table, the Council of the Last Flame met in silence. Elder Rovan, his face scarred and tired, spoke first. "We are out of time. The storms are getting worse. The harvest domes collapsed. We have no fuel, no medicine. We can't last another cycle." A younger Valari, pale and angry, slammed his hand on the table. "Then we die fighting." "Better that than sitting in the dark." But Rovan only shook his head. "There is no one left to fight." Just then, a light blinked on one of the dead consoles. Static filled the chamber, followed by a strange sound. It was a voice. "If anyone still breathes, hold on. We're coming." The room went silent. No one spoke for a long moment. They all stared at the console as if the words might vanish. Finally, someone whispered, "It's a Terran signal." The Valari stared in disbelief. Humans. The word carried fear, confusion, and legend. The Valari had heard many things about them, that humans were reckless, unpredictable, even dangerous. That they came from a death world, where life itself tried to kill them. Some said humans fought like beasts. Others said they were mad enough to fight the universe itself. Elder Rovan frowned. "Humans here? Impossible. They never come this far. And why would they help us?" The younger Valari replied sharply, "It's a trap. They'll come, take what's left, and leave us to die." But another voice, softer, trembling, rose from the corner. "Or maybe they really are coming to help." For the first time in years, the word hope whispered through the dark halls of Valerian. Hours passed. The signal repeated again and again. The Council sent scouts to the sky towers to check for incoming ships. The sensors were old, barely working, but they detected something. A small vessel moving fast. The Valari gathered outside the ruins of their capital. Dust storms swirled around broken towers. The sky glowed faintly red as their dying sun fell behind the horizon. From the clouds above, a light appeared. Not fire, not weapons. Just a beam of white light, soft and pure, cutting through the dark. The Valari fell silent. Some dropped to their knees. Others hid behind ruins, watching in fear. The ship descended slowly, its hull scarred but shining. The letters on its side read TSS Hopebringer. The ground trembled as it landed. Steam hissed from its vents. The main hatch opened. Every Valari braced for the worst. Soldiers, weapons, invasion. But instead, one single human stepped out. He was tall, dressed in a worn Terran uniform, his face covered in dust. He carried no gun, only a pack slung over his shoulder and a faint smile. The Valari didn't move. They watched him in silence. The human looked at their faces, the fear, the hunger, the despair, and slowly raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. Then he said in a calm voice, "You're not alone anymore." The crowd murmured. Some stepped back. Others stared in disbelief. No alien had spoken those words to them in years. Behind him, the human ship's cargo bay opened, releasing drones carrying crates, lights, and supplies. Machines hummed to life. The valley began to glow softly under the new light. For the first time in a long time, Valerian was not dark. Elder Rovan whispered, almost afraid to believe. He came with light, and somewhere deep in his heart, he felt something he thought he had forgotten. Hope. But as the light spread across the ruined city, far above the planet something else watched, dark shapes hidden among the stars. The Valari didn't know it yet, But this small act of mercy would soon bring the unexpected war. The human's name was Commander Elias Carter. He had arrived alone with only one small ship and a heart full of determination. To the Valari, that made no sense. No sane creature crossed half the galaxy just to help a dying world. But Carter had. The Valari watched from a distance as he began to unload supplies. He moved with calm confidence, setting up small drones that unfolded into shelters and lights. Each one hummed softly, pushing back the endless darkness that had swallowed Valerian for years. When Elder Rovan finally approached, the human simply smiled. "You must be in charge," Carter said. "Let's start with food and clean water," Rovan blinked. "Why are you here, human? What do you want from us?" Carter shrugged. "Nothing. You needed help, so I came," simple words. But no one on Valerian knew how to answer them. Over the next few days, Carter worked tirelessly. He fixed broken filters, restored power to damaged buildings, and shared everything from his small ship. His supplies weren't much, but his knowledge was. He taught the Valari how to clean the air systems using old pipes and metal sheets. He showed them how to grow food using strange Terran seeds that could survive in ash. Everywhere he went, hope began to grow. Slow, uncertain, but real. The Valari followed him in silence at first, afraid to trust. But soon, even the youngest began to smile again. They watched him with curious eyes, whispering to each other. "He's not like they said humans were." At night, Carter would sit by the fire with the elders. The crackling flames cast shadows on his scarred face. When Rovan asked about his world, Carter looked at the stars and spoke softly. "Earth's not easy either. We had wars, hunger, disasters, but we learned to survive. Not alone, but together." The Valari listened. For the first time, they began to believe that maybe, just maybe, survival was possible. But not everyone trusted him. A group of Valari soldiers, led by a hard-eyed officer named Serac, watched Carter closely. They whispered in corners, suspicious and bitter. To them, the human's kindness was a trick, a slow invasion. Serac argued before the council, slamming his fist on the table. "He's studying us, mapping our cities. You think a Terran came this far just to be kind? No, he's here for something else." Rovan shook his head. "You're blinded by fear. Look around, Serac, our children eat again. Our machines work. The human saved us." But Serac's eyes narrowed. "Or he's preparing to take control. Once we depend on him, he'll own us." Carter didn't know about this meeting. He was busy teaching a group of young Valari how to repair generators. His voice was calm and patient. He treated them as equals, not as aliens. That night, while he slept inside a small tent near the landing site, a sudden explosion shook the valley. The air filled with fire and smoke. The ground trembled. Carter woke instantly, grabbing his pack. His ears rang as he ran toward the blast. A storage unit filled with supplies had been destroyed. Valari guards rushed to the scene, shouting in confusion. Through the smoke, Carter saw Serac, standing still, face pale, holding a damaged detonator. "What have you done?" Rovan shouted. Serac's voice cracked. "We can't trust him. It's a trick. The Terrans will come. They always come." The crowd roared in anger. Some shouted for Serac's punishment, others for the human to leave. Carter raised his hands to stop them. His voice, though soft, cut through the chaos. "Enough." He looked at Serac, not with hate, but with sadness. "I get it. You've been betrayed before. You've lost too much. But I'm not your enemy." Serac trembled, unsure. The others stared in silence as Carter turned back toward the fires, organizing drones to put them out. When the flames died, he simply said, "If you want me gone, I'll leave, but not before I make sure you can live on your own again." Then he walked away into the night. Days passed. Carter continued his work quietly, avoiding attention. Many Valari felt ashamed. They saw him fixing what others broke, without anger, without asking for thanks. Children began to follow him again. They brought him tools, offered help, and laughed when he smiled. Slowly, even Serac began to see the truth. But something darker was coming. One morning, the Valari communication tower picked up an encrypted signal. Not from the surface, but from space. The message was short and cold. To the survivors of Valerian, end the Terran presence immediately, or face elimination. The words came from the Kreth Dominion, a ruthless alien empire that had long wanted Valerian's resources. They had ignored the Valari's cries for help before, but now that a human had arrived, they were suddenly interested. Elder Rovan read the message aloud, his voice shaking. They know the human is here. Fear spread through the chamber. The Kreth Dominion were known for their cruelty. They destroyed entire worlds just to make a point. Carter stood in the corner, arms crossed. His voice was calm. Then we prepare. If they come, we fight. Rovan looked at him in disbelief. With what? We have no weapons, no ships, no army. Carter's lips curved into a faint, determined smile. Then we fight with what we have. Brains, courage, and each other. The room went silent. For the first time, the Valari saw something in the human's eyes, a spark of defiance they hadn't felt in years. He turned toward the window, where the dying sun glowed weakly through the ash. They want to take your world again. Let's show them, Wah. The skies above Valerian turned darker with each passing hour. Thick clouds covered the weak sun, and lightning crawled across the horizon like veins of fire. Deep beneath the surface, in the half-restored capital, Commander Elias Carter stood over a glowing table made of holographic fragments. Around him, the Valari Council waited in uneasy silence. They're coming, Carter said quietly. The image above the table flickered. 3 massive Kreth Dominion warships, moving fast toward Valerian. Each one was large enough to level cities. Elder Rovan's voice shook. We can't fight that. Not with what we have. Carter looked up, his face calm but his eyes burning with focus. We won't fight them the way they expect. We'll make them believe Valerian is still dead. The council exchanged nervous glances. Some of them didn't trust him, not after what had happened with Serac and the explosion. The wounds of suspicion hadn't healed. Still, Rovan nodded. You have a plan, human? Carter smiled faintly. Always. Over the next few days, the ruins came alive again. Carter worked beside the Valari day and night. He taught them how to turn broken machines into scanners, how to hide power signals from orbit, and how to make false heat readings that would confuse Kreth sensors. Children carried wires and scraps of metal. Old engineers used Terran tools for the first time. Even Serac, the soldier who had once tried to destroy Carter's supplies, stood beside him now, silent but loyal. Hope had started to return, but so had fear. At night, when the human slept near his ship, Rovan and the council gathered in secret once again. He's risking everything, one elder whispered. If the Kreth find us, we're finished. And if we surrender? Another asked. They might spare a few of us. Rovan slammed his hand on the table. We've tried surrender before. It only brings death. The human believes in us. We can't betray that. But even as he spoke, far above Valerian, a silent probe drifted through orbit. Watching them, it transmitted everything back to the Kreth flagship, hidden beyond the moon. Inside that warship, Admiral Theros of the Kreth Dominion leaned over his control panel, studying the feed. The image showed the Terran ship, the working lights, and the strange cooperation between alien and human. Pathetic, Theros growled. The Valari clinged to scraps, led by a soft creature from a death world. End them, but another officer spoke cautiously. Sir, if the Terran Federation learns we attacked their kind, they'll retaliate. The humans have a reputation, Theros sneered. Reputation? Let them come. We'll show them what happens to those who meddle in Kreth affairs. Back on the surface, Carter noticed strange readings on his scanner. A faint signal repeating every few seconds, too regular to be natural. He called Serac over. You see this pattern? Someone's watching us. Serac frowned. From the Kreth ships? Carter shook his head. No. From here, on the ground. They followed the signal through the ruins until they found its source, a small, round device half buried under debris. Carter knelt and picked it up. His expression hardened. A Kreth beacon. They've had someone down here the whole time. Moments later, they found him. A thin, trembling Valerie hiding behind a broken wall. The spy's robes were torn, his eyes wild. Serac dragged him out roughly. "You've been sending signals, haven't you?" The spy hissed. "You don't understand." "The Kreth promised to spare me. They said the human would bring destruction." Carter's voice was cold but quiet. "They always promise that, and they never keep it." The spy's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know them like I do." "No," Carter said, "but I know fear, and I know what it does to good people." He turned to Serac. "Lock him up. No harm. Just keep him from sending any more messages." Serac hesitated, then nodded. The human's mercy surprised him. That night, the winds grew stronger. Lightning lit the sky, revealing the black shapes of Kreth warships above the clouds. They had arrived. Panic spread across the camp. The Valari ran to the shelters, whispering prayers. Rovan rushed to Carter's side. "What now, Commander?" "We can't stop them." Carter pressed a button on his wrist device. The holographic map lit up with small, blinking dots across the valley. "These are the power nodes we set up. The Kreth will think they're reactors. When they scan us, it'll look like this place is unstable. A dead world still decaying." Rovan looked uncertain. "And if they attack anyway?" Carter looked up at the sky, where distant flashes marked the first signs of Kreth engines entering orbit. "Then we make them regret it." Inside the Kreth flagship, Admiral Theros received the first scan results. "Radiation spikes, unstable atmosphere, massive heat damage." "This planet's dying," reported his sensor officer. Theros laughed. "So the Terran is wasting his time in a graveyard." But before he could order the retreat, one of his officers pointed at the screen. "Sir, energy signatures detected. Small but focused. Directed toward our fleet." Theros frowned. "Impossible. From a dead planet?" Then suddenly, dozens of small blasts hit the Kreth shields. Not weapons, but electromagnetic pulses. The ship shook as their targeting systems failed. "What is this?" Theros roared. On the ground, Carter watched the bright flashes in the sky. The EMP bursts came from old Valari generators he had repurposed, traps hidden across the ruins. The plan worked. "They can't see us now," Carter said. "But it won't last long." Rovan turned to him. "How long do we have?" Carter's voice was steady. "Enough time to finish what we started." He opened a small transmitter on his wrist and began recording a signal. Short, precise, and dangerous. "To any Terran ship within range, this is Commander Elias Carter of the TSS Hopebringer. We are under threat from the Kreth Dominion. Civilians in danger. I repeat, civilians in danger." He hit send. The Valari looked at him, silent and afraid. "Will anyone hear you?" Rovan asked. Carter looked up at the storm, where lightning flashed like veins of fire across the black sky. "They'll hear me," he said. "They always do." Above them, the Kreth warships began to recover. Their engines burned brighter. Weapons charged. The Dominion had realized the truth. Valerian wasn't dead. It was alive. And now it had a human. The first plasma strike hit the mountains to the east, shaking the ground. Carter steadied himself, eyes hard as steel. "Everyone to shelters," he ordered. "This is where it begins." The Valari ran, following his command. Thunder and plasma echoed through the ruins. In the distance, the Kreth fleet descended, hungry for destruction, and in the heart of it all, Commander Elias Carter stood tall, his mind already racing through plans and possibilities. He wasn't just fighting to survive, he was fighting to teach them why humanity never gives up. Because to him, hope wasn't a feeling. It was a weapon. The storm had become a war. Red lightning ripped across the sky as the Kreth Dominion fleet broke through the clouds. 3 massive warships hovered over the ruined capital of Valerian, their engines burning like suns. The ground trembled beneath the pressure of their weapons charging. Down below, the Valari scrambled for cover. Alarms screamed across the shattered city. Dust and debris filled the air. Amid the chaos, Commander Elias Carter stood in the center of the old plaza, his Terran uniform covered in dirt and blood, shouting orders with calm authority. "Move the civilians to the lower tunnels. Keep the generators running. Don't stop the power flow." He turned toward Elder Roven, who was coordinating evacuations. "If the Kreth find those tunnels, it's over," Roven warned. Carter nodded grimly. "They won't. I'm counting on their pride to blind them." Roven frowned. "Pride?" Carter looked up at the glowing Kreth ships and said quietly, "They think we're weak. That's our weapon." The first plasma barrage struck moments later. Columns of blue fire fell from the sky, tearing apart the upper city. Towers collapsed. Shock waves ripped through the ground. The Volari screamed, clutching their families as the world shook apart. But through the chaos, Carter's voice echoed over the comms. "Focus on the plan. Shield the tunnels. Get those drones in position." Hundreds of small repair drones, once used for rebuilding, now hovered into place under Carter's command. Each carried small fusion cores, unstable, improvised weapons made from salvaged parts. When the Kreth scanners swept the ruins again, they picked up a sudden wave of strange signals, heat signatures everywhere. The enemy couldn't tell what was real and what was fake. Inside the Kreth flagship, Admiral Theros growled in frustration. "Their energy patterns are wrong." "Why can't we lock on?" the sensor officer shouted over the noise. "The Terran's interference is scrambling everything. They've buried signal decoys in the ruins." Theros slammed a clawed hand against the console. "Then burn the whole surface. Wipe it clean." On the surface, Carter saw the enemy's plasma cannons glow brighter. He knew what was coming. "They're about to sweep the city," he muttered. Serac, standing beside him, clenched his jaw. "We can't stop that kind of power." Carter gave a thin smile. "No, but we can aim it." He tapped his wrist console. The drones scattered through the ruins began transmitting high-frequency pulses, guiding the Kreth targeting system slightly off course. When the plasma barrage hit, it didn't strike the tunnels or the shelters. It hit the empty plains beyond the city, exactly where Carter wanted it. The explosion lit up the horizon, shaking the world, but the capital survived. The Volari in the tunnels gasped as the ground quaked, then realized they were still alive. Carter exhaled, eyes locked on the sky. "You missed," he whispered. Hours passed like minutes. The bombardment continued, but the world of Valerian was silent. Smoke still curled from the ruins, drifting through the shattered skyline. The once golden towers now stood like broken teeth under a blood-red sky. The Kreth Dominion had left, but their shadow still lingered. Underground, the survivors gathered around flickering lights. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burnt metal. Elder Roven moved through the crowded tunnels, checking on his people. Everywhere he looked, there was exhaustion, but also something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. Near the med bay, the human, Commander Elias Carter, lay unconscious, hooked to alien medical devices barely compatible with human biology. His breathing was shallow but steady. Serac, standing guard nearby, clenched his fists. He shouldn't have survived that blast. Roven looked down at Carter. "No," he said softly, "but humans don't follow rules, not even the ones written by death." Outside, the sky began to flicker with strange lights. At first, the Volari thought it was lightning. Then they realized the pattern, a rhythmic pulse, blue and white, like a signal. A young technician ran into the command room. "Elder, there's something coming through the upper atmosphere." "Multiple objects, high velocity." Roven turned sharply. "Kreth reinforcements?" The technician hesitated, eyes wide. "No, the signatures are different." "Much stronger." Serac's heart raced. "Could it be?" Roven stared at the readings, energy levels so high the old scanners crackled. "Prepare visual feed. I want to see this." High above the planet, the void shimmered, and then tore open. Blue arcs of light stretched across the darkness as Terran warp drives exited hyperspace. One by one, massive human warships appeared. Black, angular, and silent, their hulls glowing faintly with the heat of transit. At the front of the formation was the TSS Vengeance, a Terran supercarrier the size of a small moon. Its name glowed red across its hull. Around it, smaller ships, frigates, destroyers, and dreadnoughts fell into formation. From the Vengeance's bridge, Admiral Helena Voss stood watching the planet below. Her expression was cold and sharp. Signal confirmed. Source, Valerian surface. One Terran biosignature alive. Her second officer turned, eyes wide. Commander Elias Carter. Voss's voice hardened. Open a channel to Fleet Command. Tell them we found him. The officer hesitated. And the Kreth presence, Admiral? Voss looked at the tactical screen. One damaged Kreth warship still hovered near Valerian's orbit, its systems barely functioning. She gave a small, dangerous smile. Then let's introduce ourselves. The damaged Kreth ship detected the new arrivals seconds too late. Its sensors overloaded as hundreds of Terran targeting systems locked onto it at once. Inside the Kreth bridge, Admiral Tharos rose in panic. Impossible! Humans don't have ships that size. Before his officer could respond, a voice crackled through the comm. Cold, human, and merciless. This is Admiral Helena Voss of the Terran Stellar Command. You've attacked one of our own. Surrender immediately. Or burn. Tharos bared his fangs. You think we fear you, human? Voss nodded slightly to her weapons officer. No. But you should. The Terran fleet opened fire. A wave of kinetic slugs and plasma lances tore through space, hitting the Kreth ship before it could raise shields. Armor plates peeled apart. Fire erupted from every deck. Within seconds, the once proud warship was nothing but glowing debris. The humans didn't even slow down. On the surface, the Valari watched the night sky explode in light. The entire horizon glowed blue and gold as debris from the Kreth flagship burned up in the atmosphere. The survivors poured out of the tunnels, staring upward in awe. Rovan whispered, "The sky. It's burning." Serac smiled. "No," he said. "It's shining." A comm beacon activated in the plaza, broadcasting on open frequencies. A hologram flickered to life. Admiral Voss's face, calm and composed. "This is the Terran Stellar Command. To any survivors on Valerian, we received your signal. Stand by for medical and recovery teams." The Valari erupted in cheers. For the first time in generations, they were not alone. Hours later, a Terran dropship descended into the city ruins. Its engines scattered ash and dust as armored medics stepped out, carrying advanced equipment. At their center walked Admiral Voss herself, her long coat rippling in the heat. Rovan approached her cautiously. "You're human?" Voss nodded once. "We came for one of our own. But it seems he's done more than survive." She followed Rovan into the tunnels, her boots echoing on the metal floor. When she saw Carter lying on the bed, pale and barely breathing, her expression softened for the first time. "Elias," she whispered. "You stubborn fool." The medics immediately began stabilizing him with Terran nanotech. His pulse grew stronger. Voss stood beside him, folding her arms. Rovan spoke quietly. "He saved us. Without him, Valerian would have fallen." Voss looked at him. "Then your world owes him nothing. Because that's what humans do. We don't fight for debt. We fight because it's right." Rovan bowed his head. "Then you've given us more than victory." "You've given us belief." Voss turned toward the exit. "Belief is good. But belief alone won't stop the Kreth. From today, Valerian is under Terran protection." In orbit, the Terran fleet remained in formation, scanning the surrounding systems. More Kreth signals flickered at the edge of the sector, a counterattack forming. Voss received the report silently. Then she gave the order that would echo through history. "Prepare the fleet. If the Kreth want a war..." She looked at the burning horizon of Valerian. "We'll show them what happens when they take hope from humanity." In the medbay below, Carter slowly opened his eyes. The light was dim, the room quiet. He turned his head slightly and saw Elder Rovan and Serac standing beside him. "You're awake," Rovan said softly. Carter tried to speak, his throat dry. "Did they come?" Serac smiled. "They came, Commander." "The Terrans came." Carter let out a weak laugh. "Told you. We don't leave our people behind." Rovan placed a hand over his. "You didn't just save us, Elias. You reminded an entire world what hope feels like." Carter looked up at the flickering ceiling lights. Then beyond them, through the cracked rock, toward the glowing sky above. "Then let's keep it alive," he murmured. "Because the next storm's coming." Outside, the Terran ships shifted formation. Their engines glowed brighter as the fleet prepared to jump toward the approaching Kreth lines. And as the light built in the heavens, every Valari looked up, not with fear, but with pride, because the humans had arrived. And with them came hope with fire. Far beyond the burned skies of Valerian, the darkness of space trembled. Where once only Kreth war banners drifted, now Terran warships filled the void. For the first time in history, the Kreth Dominion faced something they could not intimidate: humanity's full military response. Deep aboard the TSS Vengeance, Admiral Helena Voss stood before a wide, transparent viewport. The stars ahead shimmered as her fleet exited hyperspace. Her second-in-command, Commander Rice, read the status reports from his wrist pad. All ships accounted for, Admiral. Weapons charged, shields at full capacity. Fleet strength, 112 combat vessels. Voss nodded slowly. And the Kreth? Detected ahead. 200 ships forming a blockade around their stronghold. They think we're here to negotiate. Voss's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. Then let's disappoint them. She turned toward the holographic display, a map of the Kreth system, with its crimson sun and jagged asteroid rings. At the center was Kreth Prime, their capital world. Carter's signal changed everything, she said quietly. The Valari believed they were forgotten. So did we. But humanity doesn't abandon those who still fight. Rice glanced at her. Orders, Admiral? Voss's gaze hardened. We bring the fire. On Valerian, beneath the planet's rebuilt domes, Commander Elias Carter stood watching the Terran ships vanish into hyperspace. His body was still weak, wrapped in medical exosupports, but his eyes burned with purpose. Beside him stood Elder Rovan and Serac, now wearing the new insignia of the Valari Defense Alliance, a joint emblem of human and alien unity. They're really going to fight for us, Rovan whispered. Carter nodded. No, they're going to fight with you. He looked toward the stars, his voice steady. Hope isn't just surviving. It's fighting back, and even when the galaxy calls it madness. Meanwhile, in the Kreth system, the Dominion fleet hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming black and red. Admiral Theros, now scarred from the last encounter, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Wrath of Kor. His aide approached nervously. Sir, multiple Terran warp signatures detected. Massive tonnage, Theros growled. Let them come. They're soft creatures, full of sentiment and mercy. We'll crush them like insects. But as the Terran ships emerged, the bridge fell silent. The humans didn't come in scattered formations. They came as a wall of steel and light. Thousands of engines glowed like stars. Giant rail cannons aligned, and carriers released entire wings of autonomous drones. A single human voice echoed over every frequency. This is Admiral Helena Voss of the Terran Stellar Command. You attacked civilians. You left worlds to die. This is your reckoning, Theros sneered. Fire all weapons! The void exploded. The first wave of Kreth plasma tore through the dark, rivers of green light streaking toward the Terran line. Voss stood calm, her voice even. Hold formation. The impacts hit the Terran shields like a storm, but the human ships didn't break. Instead, the Vengeance's front cannons glowed white-hot. Return fire, Voss ordered, and the stars lit up. Dozens of Terran kinetic row